Solving absolute value equations. Now, you might recall absolute value of a number is the distance from 0. So we say absolute value of 3 is equal to 3 and absolute value of -4 is equal to 4. Because 3 is 3 units from 0 on the number line. So if this is 0, this is 3, then this distance is 3. And similarly, -4 would be 4 units to the left of 0. So the distance is 4. Now, if you have an equation like this, absolute value of x is equal to 5. So let's call it example 1. Absolute value of x is equal to 5. Then the answer is x is 5 or x is equal to -5. Notice there are two numbers which are at a distance of 5 from 0. So this is your number line. If this is 0, then this 5 is 5 units to the right and -5 is 5 units to the left. So there are actually two answers. So both of these constitute an answer. Okay. Now, example 2. Solve absolute value of y is equal to 3. Well, the answer then, just like in the previous example, y is equal to 3 or y is equal to -3. So anytime you have to solve an absolute value, then it could be either the same positive number 3 or its opposite -3. Now usually the problems will involve little more than just this one step. So one way the complexity could be increased is by having something like this. Absolute value of x plus 1 is equal to 7. Now, when you see this, then the left side of the equation has absolute value of x plus 1. Now, that 1 we need to get rid of first. So how do you get rid of the plus 1? You subtract 1 from both sides. So subtracting 1 from both sides, you see absolute value of x is equal to 6. And now this problem looks very much like example 1 or example 2. So at this point, since you just have the absolute value, you can write down your solutions: x equal to 6 or x equal to -6. And let's put our answers in a box. All right, one other way the problem could be complicated is by putting in absolute of x minus 2 is equal to 3. Now notice the minus 2 is within the absolute value, unlike example 3 where the plus 1 was outside the absolute value. So if it is outside, you want to get rid of that first. And the goal is to just have absolute value on the left side of the equation. Now here we have just the absolute value. So we are actually fine. So there is similarity between this problem and examples 1 and 2 because you have just the absolute value. So the first step is to write down x minus 2 is equal to 3 or x minus 2 is equal to negative 3. So anytime you have an expression within the absolute value equal to some positive number, then you get two separate equations. So be sure to write two equations. And now you got to solve both of these problems. Uh, how do we solve that? We just add 2 on both sides. So you get x equal to 5. That's one solution. Or again, adding 2 on both sides, I get x equal to negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. So notice both of these are our answers. All right. Now, let's look at one more example where you will see both of those complexities. So say I have absolute value of 2x minus 3 plus 2 is equal to 7. So this time, the left side looks complicated because we have, within the absolute value, we have a complicated expression. But in addition to the absolute value, we have the plus 2. So the first step is to get rid of this plus 2 by subtracting 2 from both sides. So go ahead and do that. So on the left side, it's absolute value of 2x minus 3. And on the right side, it's 7 minus 2, which is 5. So once we got rid of that plus 2, now notice you only have absolute value on one side of the equation. So at this point, you can write down two separate equations. The first equation would have 2x minus 3 equal to positive 5. And the second equation is 2x minus 3 equal to negative 5. And each of these requires two steps to solve. So how do you solve this linear equation? You need to get rid of the negative 3 first. So you add 3 on both sides. Then you get 2x on the left. 5 plus 3 is 8 on the right. And again, we have to divide both sides by 2 because we did not solve for x yet. So if you divide both sides by 2, you get x equal to 4. So that's one of the solutions. Now we got to work on the second equation. So same drill, add 3 on both sides. So your left side is 2x. The right side is negative 5 plus 3. So that's going to be negative 2. And now we divide both sides by 2. Because we need to get rid of this 2 in front of x. And this 2 is multiplying with x. If you want to get rid of the 2, you would have to do the inverse of multiplication, which is division. So you divide both sides by 2. Then these 2's cancel each other out, leaving you with just x. And negative 2 over 2 is negative 1, because negative over positive is negative. So that's your second solution. Well, I hope this makes some of the things clear. But just like with any math concept, the only way to get better is to practice. So I'm going to write down a few practice problems. I'm going to start easy and then maybe build up x minus 3, absolute of x minus 3 equal to 5. And let's say you have absolute of 2x plus 1 equal to 7. And then I'll say 3x minus 1 plus 2 is equal to 9. So you may get fractions in your answer. All right, that's all for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.